Good evening. I welcome you all to the AAA orientation session for March 2021. So, few of you already have a background of myself and my classes, and few of you are new to the session. So, I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. I am Tashwita Gupta, and I qualified ACCA at a youngest age. So, I was one of the world's youngest person to qualify ACCA, and I've done my master's from University of London, and I'm a faculty for subjects which relate to reporting, audit, and strategy. So when I say reporting, audit, and strategy, I mean the SBR, FR audit, and subjects like AA, AAA, and SPL. So basically, these are my expert areas. And since I'm working as an IFRS professional and an accountant to UK SME clients, so we have our own startup where we work for the UK clients, which could be following UK GAAP or they are following IFRSs. So we work on IFRS compliance, and therefore I have in-depth knowledge of all the accounting standards, which makes me relevant to the audit field as well. Because what is audit? Audit is basically checking whether the financial statements comply with the accounting standards or not. So if you know the accounting standards, then for sure you know how to conduct the audit. So let's quickly start with today's session and discuss the ifs and bits of audit. So this advanced audit and assurance subject, guys, this is the most challenging paper of your whole ACCA. And I mean this, okay? Because you will see many students who are either getting 51 or you will see a lot of students getting 49. There are very few students who get more than 60 or more than 55. I myself scored in the range of 60s in my advanced audit and assurance. So this is basically the challenge of the paper. And the challenging aspect of audit is now no more the syllabus. The syllabus is very easy. Okay, syllabus is very easy. You will say when you will read the audit content, you will feel, wow, this is so fun loving and so, short and cute. We are understanding it. It's all about cramming, it's all about understanding the things and then keeping in mind the keywords. But the challenging aspect which makes your P7 paper the most difficult paper is the application. Application makes it really tough for you. So, what do I mean by this application? If I tell you that XYZ is a concept, and then I give you a situation in which you have to apply that XYZ concept. So when we are, adolescent, when we are, staying with our parents, they teach us various things, and then we are left alone to the workplace. We are left alone to our colleges. We are left alone to our, places wherever we visit after growing up. So now we are basically applying the knowledge which our parents gave us. So similarly here, application is the key to pass. And application is not something which you will do like you have to theoretically explain the application. You will actually apply the concepts in the case study, which will be there in the paper. So let me show you one advanced audit and assurance paper. Let's see the past exam paper of our AAA. Past exam. Okay. So let us see how the paper looks like for what we are preparing and how we can crack this exam. Okay, for that we should see the actual paper. So, okay, March 2020 paper. Cool. Now, to be honest, March 2020 was my attempt. My last exam, which I gave in my ACCA qualification, was AAA. So, this is the paper which I got in my paper, in my, quarter, March 2020, the last attempt of my ACCA. Now, this paper is for 3 hours and 15 minutes, and you will get 10 minutes extra this time because of the computer based format of the exam. But in these 10 extra minutes, you can't write anything. It will be just given to you to read the instructions. instructions of the CBE, that how to operate the navigator and how to operate stuff, but it won't be given to you to write the answers or to read the questions. So these are 3 hour and 15 minutes, and I will discuss the time management technique with you today in the class, that how can you manage your time in these 3 hours and 15 minutes, what time you have to use to read which question, and then in what time you have to write that question. That we'll discuss. So let us see the paper. So this is the question number 1, and here they have stated section A. Can you see it here? Section A, and this one question is compulsory and must be attempted. So section A, question number 1, and here I can see written 46 marks plus 4 marks and then 50 marks. So the first question itself is for 50 marks. And if you have given SBR before, you must have seen the first question was for 30 marks. But here the challenge is the first question is of 50 marks. So here I am supposed to apply my comprehension skills. You have to read and understand the case study. Just, having the knowledge and then just giving the brief reading to the paper won't help. You will have to read, understand, and reflect on the points. And because it is a computer based exam, the challenge is heightened. You'll ask me how? The reason is that when I was giving my paper based exam, so I personally gave a paper based exam. So I was just tilting the pages. I was using my pencil to annotate the things. And, I was making notes. So, like we have blank space here. So I was making my notes with the pencil that, okay, I have to write this thing in my answer. But you guys don't have that option. That is unfortunate. But the fortunate part is that you guys can copy and paste the things from the case study to the response options. So that is the key bit which I'm going to even cover in my course, where I will tell you that how to actually manipulate the things in computer based exam and how to use the positive points of CBE in professional level. So how can I copy and paste? How can I, save my time to actually not tilt the pages? So here I can say to shift from one exhibit screen to another exhibit screen. So how can I save my time? That is really important. So let us read through the requirements here, so we can get a understanding that what is basically asked in the audit paper. So this is a group audit question, and usually in the first question of our AAA we have group audit. And in that group audit, we are asked about the business risk, the risk of material misstatement, and the audit risk. So I will explain that stuff to you when I come to the key areas of AAA. But if you are understanding, if you're taking this exam again or you've already studied for it before, so you must be getting the vibe here that what is business risk, what is audit risk, what is ROMM. So this paper, first they have given you the background of the company and then they have moved towards the requirement. So let us read the requirement here. I will now annotate on the screen. Okay. So here they're talking about using the information in all exhibits, evaluate the audit risk to be considered in planning the group audit. So today I'm going to take you through the whole process of audit, the beautiful process of audit which happens in any company which is listed. So what is audit, how it happens, and what is planning of the audit, and what is basically group audit? So as the term group suggests, where you have a parent and you have a subsidiary, or one or two subsidiaries, that is a group. If you are conducting the audit of one single company, you will say you are a normal auditor. So let's talk about a very big company which is relevant to our daily lives, Facebook. I think we all use Facebook. And then I hope you know that Facebook has two subsidiaries, WhatsApp and Instagram. So if you open your Instagram handle, you will see it's written Instagram from Facebook. On WhatsApp also it's written WhatsApp from Facebook, because there was merger and acquisition transaction between these three companies. So now they are forming a part of group, all three of them, where Facebook is the parent and WhatsApp and Instagram are the subsidiaries. So if I conduct just the audit of Facebook and I don't conduct the audit of WhatsApp and Instagram, that doesn't mean it's group audit or not a group audit. So there are two types of statements now. See, understand this point. One is individual financial statement. Okay. So individual financial statement will be there for Facebook, will be there for WhatsApp, will be there for Instagram, irrespective of the fact that they are from one particular group. I don't care about that. There will be one individual financial statement and then there will be a group financial of statement, group financial statement. So if you are auditing the group financial statements, then you are the group auditor. And if you are auditing the individual financial statements of either Facebook, of either WhatsApp or Instagram, or three of them, then you are the normal auditor who assesses the individual financial statement. So the first question here is from group audit. Most of the times, as we have done the trend analysis. So when once we are, in the middle of our syllabus, I will tell you that what is the prediction for the upcoming quarter. Because to be honest, this paper is very predictable because there is no new content. There's nothing new which they can ask you. It's a very restricted subject with restricted syllabus. They keep on repeating the questions. So here they're asking you to evaluate. So understand the requirement here. Evaluate the audit risk. What is evaluation? Just going through the case study and writing the audit risk, that is not evaluation. Evaluation is considering the interrelatability. What do I mean by evaluation? When I consider the interrelatability. You'll ask me now, what do I mean by this interrelatability? If I tell you that a student in my class came in late, okay, and a student in some other tutor's class also came in late. Now, if we interrelate this thing, okay, if we interrelate this thing, that means if I tell you that both of these students were coming late to the this class, that means something fishy is cooking in between both of them. So I interrelated the two events. I was the class monitor of one section of the class, and one student came in late, and my friend was the monitor of the second section of the class, and one student came in late there as well. And we interrelated the two events. We were able to bridge the gap between the two events. That is evaluation. So if something is happening in a business, if something is happening in the financial statements, and you are able to interrelate, that means if revenue is risky, that means revenue recognition in the financial statements could be misstated. This is one statement. What is my interrelatability to this? If revenue is misstated, that means receivables might also be misstated, isn't it? Because what is revenue? The sales you make. And on the sales, you get the receivables, you get the customers. So that is interrelatability. Then what else is there? If I tell you that my receivables, they don't pay on time. On a very fundamental basis, you will say that there is a risk that there will be bad debt if your receivables don't pay you on time. But at this professional level, just saying that there is a bad debt or there is a risk of bad debt, you will also mention one more thing. That is, that if there is a risk of bad debt and a receivable is not paying on time, that is true. But there is also one interrelated thing. That means my credit control procedures are not good. And having a low quality of credit control procedure, that is an internal control deficiency. So what is an internal control? Anyone in the chat box, what do we mean by internal control? Anyone, give it a try. Come on. What do I mean by internal controls? Layman language, no need to use the technical bits and pieces. Whatever you know about internal control.
controls that have been implemented in the organization to ensure that there are no frauds or
Yes,
uh,
Ansu. Yes, very good. So these are the policies and the procedures, standard policies and procedures. So Ankita is saying controls created by the management to prevent and detect the errors. Very good. So to prevent and detect the misstatements, first of all, I need to prevent the misstatement and then I want to detect it. So if first I want to control that there will be no mistake, then if there is a mistake, I should detect that mistake. So that is internal control. That is standard policy and procedure, PNP. That's what I call it. Standard policy and procedure. That is internal control. So since your credit control procedure is not good, that means your internal control is weak. See, I said there will be a risk of bad debt, and from that point, I interrelated it to internal control deficiency. So that is the evaluation skill. That is the requirement of evaluation. So you should just not tell them about audit risk, which is there prevalent in the company. You will first talk about its materiality. Then you will assess the risk. That is it a high level risk or a low level risk, right? And then you will explain the treatment. So I will explain this point to you over the board here now. Just look at it. That how you're supposed to answer the questions of audit risk in your exam. So I call it as MTR. In my audit risk requirement, I have to follow this technique of MTR. First, I will write the materiality of the risk. What is risk? Something which is, prone to misstatement. So when you go for an audit and you know that the client is operating in derivatives. So the risky area is recognition of derivatives because IFRS 9 is an inherently risky area. Not every accountant is well equipped with the knowledge of IFRS 9. So that is a risky area. So I will first write its materiality. I'll calculate the materiality. I will teach you how to calculate this. You might be knowing this from your double exam, right? So you will calculate the materiality. Then what you will do is you will write the treatment. So if I said IFRS 9 is the risky area, so what are the provisions of IFRS 9? Now that makes AAA directly related to SBR. So if you have good knowledge of SBR, you're going to rock your AAA exam. And if you don't have good knowledge of SBR, you will have to revise it again. And one of the reasons why students fail AAA because they have forgotten their accounting standard knowledge or they have not even attempted SBR yet. That's the biggest mistake they do. So when I say that I have to explain the treatment of the risky area, if I said IFRS 9 is a risky area, I should know what is there written in the accounting standard, what is written in IFRS 9 so that I can mention that here and get my 1 mark. So 1 mark is there for materiality, 1 mark is there for the treatment, and 1 mark is there for the risk. Now, what is this risk? Which account will be overstated or understated? Which account will be overstated or understated? So maybe in the case study, they have written that, let's suppose that, there was a provision which was supposed to be recognized. So there was a provision which should have been recognized, but we have not recognized this. Or there is a risk that you must not have recognized this. So either you know that you have not recognized a provision, or you are in a doubt whether it was recognized or not. So in that case, first you will write the materiality of that amount of provision. Then you will explain the IS 37 requirements specific to the case study. What is talked about in the case study? Maybe there is a court case going on. In the case study on the company X, which is our audit client, there is a court case going on. They said that there is a probability of 50% that we will lose this case. And in that case, I will have to pay out $10,000 as a fine, as a penalty. So the treatment, what is the treatment? The treatment is to recognize a provision, a liability of 10,000. So what is the treatment under IS 37? Explain that. It comes directly from SBR. Then you will calculate the materiality of this 10,000 here. And then you will write down the risk. The risk is that liabilities will be understated and expenses will be understated. Because how do we record a provision? We pass this journal entry, statement of profit and loss debit, and my provision credit. And if I have omitted this journal entry, that means what is overstated and what is understated. SOPL is understated, that means my profit is overstated and my liability is understated. So that is basically how you're supposed to evaluate. And then to make your answer better, to get those 4 professional marks, you will further give a tinge of evaluation. You can relate it to some internal control. Okay. It's just like art and craft in audit risk question. You can relate it to internal control, or you can give a short and cute response. That means if I have identified the risk, then what the auditor's response would be for this particular matter. How should he deal with this risk? He should conduct more substantive procedures. He should be, professionally skeptical after this event, or he should see the financial statements, the draft financial statements, or he should investigate things with someone. So a very cute short line about his response, not a full audit procedure, but a short and cute line. That is basically what is there in audit risk and this first requirement. So let's see the marking, that okay, which what marks are allocated to this requirement. 24 marks. Oh my god, can you see this? 24 marks directly from audit risk. And now you know how accounting standards are important in AAA. And then they talk about some theoretical aspects, evaluate the extract from company component auditor strategy, commenting on the audit strategy response and ethical methods. So these are for 10 marks, and these are ethics, basically the subject which you've already done in audit and assurance F8 paper, the ethics, code of ethics, that we'll also cover again from scratch, no worries. So that is a theoretical aspect which will require few application skills, but it can be managed. Then design the principal audit procedures which you will instruct the component auditor to perform on the sale of property to group CEO. Okay. Now they have given me a specific area on which I am supposed to conduct the procedure. What is an audit procedure now? Audit procedure is work done or work to be done by the auditor. That is basically the verb. If I tell you that sit down, if I tell you stand up, I'm telling you to do something, right? I'm giving you a verb. Similarly, if the auditor does something in the audit, he is doing something, that means it's a verb. He is recalculating the depreciation, he is reperforming the procedure, or he is, investigating things from the management. So he is doing something, and that is a verb. And whatever is the verb, that is the audit procedure. So audit procedures which you will instruct the component auditor to perform on the sale of property. So when we sell the property, property is IAS 16. So when you sell the property, that is the provision of IAS 16. So what is given in IAS 16, based on those provisions, you will design the audit procedures. And now again, interrelatability between SBR and AAA. Then exhibit 5, discuss whether it's appropriate joint audit. So this is a direct question, difference between joint audit and joint audit arrangement, and advantages and disadvantages. Okay, joint audit advantages and disadvantages for 6 marks. So very basic kind of a question. So I hope now you're getting the vibe of your AAA paper, how it is related to your SBR, and how this is going to Nihad, you're asking, is this also related party? Which second one? Yes, yes, it is a related party transaction as well. Good point. Because it's a group CEO. So we've not done related parties yet. So I won't be actually talking about it. Right? Anything else? Any other doubt from here? From this particular question? You can ask in the chat box before I move ahead. Quickly. Okay, I suppose there's no doubt as of now. So let us move ahead. Okay. Let's see the exhibit now. This is the exhibit information given in our question. Okay. And here we are talking about lots of information and stuff, right? So I'm talking about the background of the client, what is happening in the client. He has a foreign subsidiary. So various accounting standards will be applying on that particular company. So that is what basically we are talking about in this particular question. So I won't go into the detail because we've not covered the syllabus yet. We can't solve this paper, but there will be a day where we'll be able to actually solve this paper in class. And you guys will be writing it with your own hands, right? So we'll be preparing for that particular day. Okay. Now let us see the second question and how it works. So this is a section B, the second question, where we are talking about 25 mark question. See this. Discuss the implications of the fraud for the completion of the audit and the actions to be taken by the auditor. So there was a fraud being conducted in my client's company, and how I am going to assess the implication. Now, many students don't understand the meaning of implication. If you won't understand the requirement, how will you give the right answer? What is an implication? If I tell you that I fell from the stairs, okay, let's suppose I said there is a statement that I fell from stairs. Now there will be few people who will, in a span of a second, assess this statement, and they will come to one thought. Okay, I won't say a conclusion, but a thought that, okay, were you hurt? Are you fine? What is that? Implication? What thought comes to your mind next? What this event leads to? What this event leads to? Are you getting the vibe here? That what this event leads to? What do we imply by this? In maths, we used to use this signal, or you can say sign, which was this implication sign. When I said because x plus y is equal to 5, that means that implies y is equal to 5 minus x. This is an implication sign. So you need to discuss the implication of the fraud. If there was a fraud, you're not supposed to describe the fraud here. You have to tell what this event leads to. I am not asking describe how you fell. I am asking that now what will happen? You will go to the doctor, you will call your parents or whatever. So what is the implication of the fraud? And the first and the foremost mistake done by the students here is they will start explaining what fraud is and what fraud was conducted in this particular company, which is wrong. You have to discuss now how auditor will deal with this fraud. What was or what will be his future action? How will this fraud in XYZ department affect the XY ABC department? So there was a fraud in revenue department. How will this affect the audit of marketing department? So that is the way you have to interrelate the things and think about the implication, and you have to discuss that here. Then the actions to be taken by the auditor. So first you say what will be the implication. So I fell from the stairs. Implication is I will be hurt or I will not be hurt. And another implication is maybe my cousin who was also there with me on the stairs, he also fell. That is the implication. Then what is the action? Going to the doctor is the action. Or assessing the the wound which you had, that is the action. And that is for 6 marks. And we will be discussing the marking scheme throughout our sessions, that if this topic comes, what will be the marking scheme. As I said, for audit risk, 3 marks for each audit risk if you are able to calculate the materiality. Because sometimes in audit risk, there is no amount given. So if there is no amount, I can't calculate materiality. Therefore, that audit risk comes out to be 2 marks per audit risk. So 1 mark for materiality, 1 mark for treatment, 1 mark for risk, MTR, 3 marks. And here it is 6 marks. So therefore, 6 relevant points should be written. Then in respect of the development cost and trade receivables, I have to comment upon the sufficiency and appropriateness of the audit evidence obtained. Now, what is this audit evidence? We've never heard of it. I told you just now about audit procedures, where I was using a verb. Procedure is equal to a verb. Auditor is conducting something which is termed as audit procedure. But why is he conducting that thing? You'll say to assess whether the financial statements are true and fair or not. Okay, partially yes. But another very big reason to conduct a procedure is to collect the evidence. And that evidence will be in the form of a document. So if I talk that, okay, if I write this procedure, review the board minutes, review the board minutes. And why do we review the board minutes? That will complete the whole procedure. So right now I don't have the information from the case study, so I will skip that why. Maybe I need to confirm whether the plant and machinery was bought actually or not. So I said review the board minutes. We need to see whether the purchase of plant and machinery was authorized by the CEO or not. So this is the procedure, a verb. But the copy of board minutes which you will find on the audit file in the working papers, that is audit evidence. That is audit evidence. So the copy of board minutes which you will find on the working paper on the audit file, that is audit evidence. And that evidence should be sufficient in terms of quantity. That evidence should be appropriate in terms of quality. So comment on the sufficiency and appropriateness. This is a whole topic which we have in our notes, which we will follow throughout our sessions. So this is a new, you can say you've done it in AA partially, where we say that, okay, if there are two contradicting evidences. So let's suppose I investigated my client. Okay. So I investigated my client. Let's do this on the new screen. So I said I investigated my client. Very interesting. Do listen to it carefully. I investigated my client and the employee number 1. This is the employee number 1. He said, we have total employees and their number is 20. We have 20 total employees. Then I went to employee number 2. He said, we have just 15 employees. This is what the auditor does. He investigates the things, he inquires, right? So he went to the employee number 1 and he went to the employee number 2. And both of them are talking about various numbers which don't match. 20 is not equal to 15, right? So this is a contradicting point. Now here, what evidence will be sufficient? Just asking both of them and saying that because the CEO of the company and employee number 1, both of them said 20 employees are there, therefore I conclude there are 20 employees and I ignore this employee number 2. Again, I repeat, the CEO said that there are 20 employees and the employee number 1 also said that there are 20 employees. So therefore, I ignore the employee number 2. Is that a right thing to do? Is that a right approach? Yes, monthly payroll data. Correct, Ankita? So this is not a right approach to be used. So for that matter of fact, we will need more evidences. So when I will need more evidences, that means just getting the verdict from CEO and employee number 1 is not sufficient. The quantity and the quality is not sufficient and appropriate. So I need to comment on the sufficiency and appropriateness of the evidence which must have been collected in the particular case study. So they will tell you this evidence was collected and you will comment whether that's sufficient and appropriate or not. And again, for that, you need to have the knowledge of accounting standards because the evidences would be collected based upon the accounting standard. Okay, now let us see the next requirement. Recommend the actions to be taken by the auditor, include the further evidence which should be obtained. So, which actions the auditor should take, you should recommend them, and you should include further evidence, additional evidence which the auditor should obtain other than what which he has already gathered. Now, why they're asking me this? Because as the question clearly indicates, that what we have actually presently gathered that is not sufficient and appropriate, that's why they asked me to comment on it. And now they're asking me, if that is not sufficient and appropriate, then what is the additional evidence which you would need? So if you say that the verdict from CEO and employee number 1 is not appropriate, then what else you should get? A student right now just correctly answered it, that you would need the monthly payroll data. You will do the head count. You will pay a surprise visit to the client and you will actually count the number of people. You will need the biometric data available. So whenever you enter your firm, you put your thumb in and you actually mark your attendance. So that data of attendance would be required by the auditor. That is the further evidence, right? So this is our second question, first requirement from evidence and procedures basically. Then it is from reporting. Here they are asking me to actually critically appraise the extract from proposed auditor report. So what is critical appraisal? This is a very famous requirement which comes in the second question. So this is from reporting topic which we will cover in detail. Okay, so critical appraisal is, if you talk about the word critical, so you know about critiques, right? So they don't just talk about the bad things, they also talk about the good things. So you should talk about good and bad things together. But there are more bad things. You are being more critical. I am just not accepting the person as he is. I am getting into the depth. I'm looking for the even the minor negative points. So I am basically giving a true picture. So audit report, is it in the correct format? Is it having correct information? That is critical appraisal of the report, which I will do here for 8 marks. And that ends my second question. Right? Now let us move to the third question. Now, this third question is very, very interesting and it comes from unpredicted areas. It will come from an area which is other than audit. Read this requirement. Explain the matters to be considered by Mortis and Company before accepting the engagement to review and report L Company's prospective financial information. What is audit? Audit is assessing the historical financial information. And here they're talking about prospective financial information. And then they're talking about procedures on cash flow forecast. So basically, they're talking about something other than audit of historical information. And we call it as other assignments, which you will just see in a moment when I'll show you the notes which we will follow. So this area is coming from, the third question is coming from other assignments, something other than audit of historical financial information, where we are giving the assurance, we are giving, a verdict or we are giving a review. We are doing some work, but that work is on prospective financial information, on cash flow forecast and other things which are there in your syllabus. But this work is not on historical financial information. What do I mean by historical financial information? So if I say that my year ended on 31st March 2020, okay, my year ended on 31st March 2020, and I actually start the audit after the year end. So it takes approximately 2 months for the audit. So I start the audit after the year end, after the financial statements are being prepared. So whatever I am testing, that period has already gone. That period is over. That's why it's historical, right? So after 31st March, maybe the audit is happening, uh, in the June or in the April. It's not happening right after the 31st March or before 31st March. So that's why we call it as audit of historical financial information. But in other assignments, it's about prospective financial information. It's about due diligence. It's about other things like investigation, like forensic audit. So all of that is there in our syllabus, which I will cover with you. Then comment on ethical and professional issues. Now see, again, it is for 10 marks. Remember, it was there for 10 marks in question number 1 as well. Can you see the importance of ethics here? So ethics are here for 20 marks, risk is here for 24 marks, and procedures are here for the remaining marks. Audit procedures and evidence. So what can I conclude from this? What can I conclude from this? What is my key area of the syllabus? So if anyone asks you ever that what is the key area of AAA? First key area of AAA is the audit risk, which comes for around 24 marks. Then it is the audit procedures or evidence. Then it is the ethics. Then it is reporting. We got a question on critical appraisal of the audit report. So these are the important areas of my syllabus, and they all come in the framework of or in a box which has an outline of SBR. So if you want to answer an audit risk question, you need the knowledge of SBR. If you want to answer an audit procedure, you need the knowledge of SBR. If you want to even answer the ethics, what is the ethics requirement? They will say something is going on wrong, and that wrong has happened due to some pressure or due to some incentive, due to some self interest. So if you will not be able to identify that wrong, how will you even talk about the ethics then? So for the identification of the wrong, again, I need the accounting standard knowledge. Then in reporting, yes, I agree, in reporting you don't need the SPR knowledge, it can be managed, but see, it was just for 8 marks. So in most of the areas, I need my SPR knowledge apt. So we will be covering the brief of accounting standards, whatever will be required throughout the course. Because I'm teaching SBR as well, so I will be covering that with you in our live sessions. And if you have just given SBR or you're planning to give both of them together, then nothing like that. That's the sole reason I say that SBR and AAA go together like bread and butter, right? Okay. Now let us discuss about few other things. So I'll move to my document. Okay. So we've discussed the format. We have to discuss about time management and then the timetable. Okay. So now before I move to the time management and stuff, I'll show you the notes which we will follow. Okay. Now these are the notes for advanced audit and assurance, and they are well authenticated and notes of ACCA, which I personally used as a student and I scored 60 plus. Okay. So you can get good confidence by reading these notes, because I will emphasize it over again that here the syllabus is less than the application, that means practice. So practice is greater than the syllabus here. So cover the syllabus as soon as possible. And my approach will be to cover your AAA syllabus by first week of February at most. And then you guys will be given the recorded as well as few live sessions of kit solving session. So I solve around 40 to 50% of the BPP kit in the class itself. So that has been my past trend. So we do conduct these practice sessions. So they will be given to you in the form of recordings, and there will be few live sessions as well, because after this time February month is short, right? It's not a 31-day a month. So you will quickly cover the topics from the kit using the recordings, and then you will have 2 to 3 live sessions every week with me, where I will again solve some questions. So recordings plus live sessions. so that you can quickly cover the kit. And then you will be giving the assignments where you will get your assessed feedback about the questions, and you will give the mock exams, and then at the end you will have grand revision sessions. If you are not aware of them, just visit my YouTube channel and you can find I conducted these for the SBR paper this time, because I have an active batch of AAA as well, so I'll be conducting it for AAA too. So this is the basic criteria which we will follow, and these are the notes, okay, which you can see in front of you. So let me show you the other assignment area. Other assignment area which you found in question number 3 starts from here and it goes till social and environmental issues. So this is other assignment, and this is a very tiny area. See, it starts from page number 234 and it goes till page number 266. So around 30 pages. Out of the 273 pages, just 30 pages. So this is a very tiny and short area. If you know this, if you understand this in the live session, so whatever I teach in the session, I or you should make sure that you understand it there and then, and you need not revise it again from the notes. So once we have done something in the class, I will refer to the notes in the class as well. I will say that, okay, I explained you this concept, it's written here. But if you understand something in the class already, what you can do is, after the class, whatever we did and whatever work I have given you, first do the work which I have given to you. Secondly, whatever I taught in the class, just jot it down quickly on a piece of paper. After the class, I'm not talking about during the class, okay? Because you will always find whatever I teach in the notes if you want to refer it back. But just jot your ideas down in a form of a flow chart, a table, or in form of some mnemonics, maybe which you are able to understand, so that you can collect your thoughts what happened in the class today. That's the right way to study. And I always believe in smart studies, guys, okay? That's why I say, once you do something in the class, no need to go back and read it. Just collect your thoughts quickly in 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't take time. If you have heard everything attentively, just 1.5 hours you have to listen to me attentively. That's all. Okay, and you can enjoy your rest of the day. Unless we start with the kit practice, then you will have to put in the effort. So for the initial few weeks, or you can say month, you can just follow this approach. Whatever you listen in the live class, quickly jot it down on a piece of paper so that I can collect my thoughts, and then do the homework whichever is given. There will be very less homework which I give, to be honest. So that is the approach in the notes which we are following, and that was the key area of syllabus which I've already told you about. Now let us discuss about the time management techniques before we end this session. Okay, time management. So I'm given 3 hours 15 minutes and I have to solve a 100 marker paper which has you can say 96 marks for technical and 4 marks are for professional skills. Cool. How to get these professional skill mark? Number 1, if they ask you a format of briefing note, you should know the format of briefing note. If they ask you about, okay, uh, you have to present your answer in logical flow. Okay, that is one of the thing which you have to keep in mind. It should not be just like written in long paragraphs with no headings or subheadings. I will show you my paper, like what I did in my mock exam. So I did self study when I studied for AAA, but when I did I was very serious about mock exams, because mock exam is something which will tell you about time management the most. So I will show you my mock exam which I got tested from a local faculty, and I will show you that how I used to write. Now I'm not saying that I am a perfect person and I was a student back then, right? But I will just give you a vague idea that this is a right way to present your answer, because that tutor told me that it was a good thing to write. So that means you should have a subhead, a heading, main heading, you should have subheading, you should have bullet points, you should have short and cute paragraphs, not long stories which the examiner don't even want to read. So how to manage my time is structuring my answer, writing to the point, writing it the logical flow, short paragraphs, bullet points, and if the time is running, quickly draw a chain of reaction. Now, because this thing happened, if this should happen in the third question, okay, the last question which you do, if the time is not remaining. So maybe because this thing happened, this implies this will lead to this, and that would result into this. So you can make such sort of a flow chart or a quick just keywords you should write in the last few minutes of your exam, because audit is such a paper where you will suffer the lack of time. You will see time pressure building up on you. So, how much time I have to spend on each question now? The first 15 minutes, guys, listen to this very, very carefully. The first 15 minutes, you will just read the question number one. You will not go to your question number two or question number three. Don't ever commit this mistake. If you will just wave through whole of your paper, and you see that in question number 2 they have asked about an accounting standard about which you don't know anything, you will start worrying about it, which will affect your performance of question number 1. So deal with the question as they come. That's what my personal recommendation and advice is, and this is a experienced advice with the students whom I have taught so far. So just read the first question in your first 15 minutes. And then you are going to actually, so how to annotate on the computer based exam, how to copy and paste stuff from the case study to the response option, that all I'll teach you throughout my sessions. No worries regarding that. So then I'll answer my question number 1. So question number 1 is for 50 marks. So 50 into 1.8, quickly in the chat box, what's that? 50 into 1.8. Yes. What is 50 into 1.8? 90 minutes? Right. Correct. Yes. So that is 90 minutes. So I should try that I give 85 minutes. Okay. This is for extreme case. Now you will see students. One of my friends, we gave the exam together. What she did was that she took 1 hour plus around, you can say, 50 minutes. So basically 2 hours, around 2 hours just for question number 1, because she was trying to give perfection in question number 1. We are so sentimental in question number 1 that we give our best format, best handwriting. So here you don't have handwriting issue, but we are trying to give our best knowledge. We are writing too much. But you should know in the AAA from the very first minute that this is a time pressured exam and I cannot afford emotions here. I have to stick to the minute count. I have to stick to the point. I have to give my answer in the set time of 90 minutes in any case. So you will be practicing questions, the 50 marker questions throughout your sessions, and you will try to bring down your time to 90 minutes for attempting that question. Then you can easily manage your question number 2 and question number 3 in the remaining 90 minutes. So 45 minutes for this and 45 minutes for this. And you can easily manage that. Not an issue. So I said 5 minutes less here so that 5 minutes at the end are remaining. That's the perfect approach. But it's a fact that you won't be left with any revision time in AAA. And if you're left with the revision time, then I'll bow down to you that, okay, wow, you're the master. But it's very tough, to be honest. You won't be left with any time at the end for revision. So it's better to stick to the time. And every time, a student will come and say that 10 marker is left, 5 marker is left. Even in my case, when I did my paper, I showed you my paper. I'll show you again. Let me just go back to it. Okay. Now see here, I'll tell you what happened with me when I was doing the exam. This 10 mark last requirement you can see on ethics, I did this 10 marker requirement just in 5 minutes. And that happens because it's a very big paper. too comprehensive. I need to retain a lot of knowledge, and I need to write a lot of things. So what I did, I drew the chain of reactions. I quickly stated that these, whatever was there in this, I still remember what content is here. They're talking about some non-assurance services which are provided to this Mortis company, and those services are not allowed under code of ethics. So I quickly wrote that these three services are not allowed under code of ethics, and then I wrote the other few points: self-review, threat, self-interest, and I just gave the key words in that paper, in that requirement, because there was no time. There were just 5 minutes and even less than that. So this will happen to you. This can happen to you as well. So you have to control your emotions from the very first questions and stick to your time limit. And you see that, okay, the first question is taking more than 90 minutes, leave it there. No problem. Leave it there. We'll come back to it. Though it's a fact that you might not be able to come back to it. So let's suppose you are left with this 6 marker. This also happened with me. I was left here. I'll show you the requirement, the 6 mark advantages and disadvantages of joint audit arrangement. So you can see this requirement here. I was not able to complete my first question in 90 minutes, even though I practiced the mocks, I did the kit, I did it with my own hands. Still, the 6 marker was not, I was not able to complete in the set 90 minutes. So I moved ahead. And now, when I was doing that 10 marker, I was remaining with 5 minutes, as I told you. So if I would have panicked, I could have left 16 marks, which is too huge. If I would come back and cry that I left 16-mark paper, I left the 6 marks here, I left the 10 marks there. That would have been wrong. But what I did the smart thing here. I quickly wrote the keywords in that 10-mark requirement, and I came back to it because I knew this is an easy requirement. Just advantages and disadvantages which can come from your head like a common sense question. So I just wrote in joint audit arrangement that it is costly, it takes a lot of time, there can be conflict of interest. So quickly a bullet point, costly. Bullet point, lot of time, energy. So all of that I wrote. I wrote 6 points like this, and maybe I got marks in that. I don't know because I couldn't see my paper. But I got a satisfaction that I didn't leave 16 marks. I did write something. So I wrote the keywords for which the marks are given. Maybe I won't get the whole 6 mark, but at least 3 marks or maybe 4 marks. So this is how you're able to manage your paper well. So this is all about your AAA paper. And if you have any doubts about our classes which are conducted, the timings of the classes, so I have already shared that with you on the group. Okay. And yeah, so any doubts, please drop it in chat box. Ankita is asking, does the length of the answer matter? No, no, Ankita. The points which you are making, the relevant logical points which you are making, that is what matters the most, not the length. They won't see what all stories you have written. They'll just see the keyword is there. They'll just see whether the point which is there in the marking scheme, whether that is there in your answer or not. So when we'll be conducting these further topics, I'll basically show you that what is the marking scheme and how do they mark your answer. I will mark one of your assignments in the live session, so you'll get a better picture. Yeah, great. Any other doubt, guys?
Ma'am, you have already shared the notes in the group, right? For
Yes,
AAA?
yes, yes.
Okay. So we just have to read that. Do we have to read the study text?
No, no. Study text has to be substituted with the notes. So we'll be doing the notes and the BP kit.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Just in link to the group. I'm talking about the premium group. So I'll just WhatsApp me. I'm just dropping my number in the chat box. So you'll have to enroll. If you want to get added in the general group, that is also there. I'll add you up there also. But if you want to get into the premium group, I just share it. That you'll have to enroll. So this is my number. You can WhatsApp me and you can ask the doubts which are prevalent to audit, general doubts. I'm always there to help, whether you enroll or not. Or if you have any, if you need these notes as well, because these notes are not mine, okay? I've not prepared these notes. These are the notes from ACCA. So you can get these notes irrespective of the fact you are enrolled or not. So just feel free to WhatsApp me and ask your queries. Any other doubt, guys, before we end the session?